We are gearing up for Remembrance Sunday amidst an incredibly febrile and hostile atmosphere in this country. In a couple of weeks, military heroes will march past the cenotaph in London. The same cenotaph that is currently barricaded up to protect it from being damaged by protesters angry about what's going on in Gaza. We've got clashes taking place on the street right now next to the cenotaph, the memorial to our fallen heroes, the people who laid down their lives for our freedoms and our way of life. And it turns my stomach. I wonder what those brave men and women must be thinking right now. I wonder what they'd think if they saw people calling for jihad and Muslim armies and stuff like that. We have soldiers being told not to wear their uniforms in public in case they become targets for terrorists. We have heroic wartime leaders like Winston Churchill being denounced as evil, bigoted villains. We have veterans struggling with crippling mental health issues as a result of their service, struggling to access the resources that should be more easily available to them. Many of them, sadly, turn to drink and drugs or even take their own lives. We have people who were prepared to fight and die for this country in more recent conflicts lining the streets because we don't have enough housing stock for them, when councils and politicians seem able to find billions of pounds collectively for housing stock for those who have just arrived in Britain. And then we look at what's taking place in schools, where children appear to be taught the negatives about Britain's military history and not the overwhelming positives. Is it any wonder, then, that places like Brighton, which is regarded by many as arguably the wokest place in Britain, struggle to find somebody to sell poppies ahead of Remembrance Day? There were serious concerns that a long-standing poppy seller, who sadly can no longer volunteer, could not be replaced. In fact, they only found somebody a couple of days ago. But it got me thinking. Clearly, there are parts of the UK that struggle to raise money for the Royal British Legion, which helps people who have suffered as a result of their service for Queen, now King, and country. It supports their families. It helps veterans with mental health care, with housing, to get a job and to adjust to Civvy Street. It helps their families as well. But it does more than that. It does much more than that. In a world where our greatest generation is increasingly forgotten, the heroism of the past is now viewed negatively instead of with the love, awe and adoration that it deserves. In a world where patriotism is all too often seen as a dirty thing, where we feel as though we are no longer proud to be British or allowed to be proud to be British, the Royal British Legion fights the good fight. It epitomises everything that true patriotic Brits love about our nation and our national history. And that is why I am trying to raise 10 grand for the Royal British Legion. I'm asking you, please, to go to justgiving.com/page/GB News Poppy. That's justgiving.com/page/GB News Poppy to donate. Just give whatever you can, even if it's a couple of quid. And tomorrow, I am going to be doing a show from Brighton, where they have found it quite tricky to get a volunteer to hand out the poppies. And I'll be focusing on our beloved military veterans. With all the nonsense that's going on in our country at the moment, it is more important than ever that we show our love for our heroes. So please, if you can, just go to justgiving.com/page/GB News Poppy and just give whatever you can. Let's get to 10K.